Welcome to a brand new Wildcard Wednesday here on the Michele Tafoya podcast. Excited to share so much. My gosh, there's always stuff going on, isn't there? We've got great videos, particularly our last one today is, I'm in love with this woman. If you can, have a girl crush on another woman, I've got one. Okay, you'll see that at the end. Hit subscribe, please. Just click on subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. If it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube or Rumble, just click subscribe. We'd love to have you with us every single time. But without further ado, we got to get into it. So we all can see with our own eyes, if we're intellectually honest, that Donald Trump is having a really good few weeks. I mean, peace. We have Netanyahu nominating him for the Nobel Peace Prize, which gives it like a snowball's chance in hell of happening. But that's neither here nor there. We have the bombed. We've got the big, beautiful bill passed. There's so much happening. And the resistance is, they're fired up. But Dems are kind of in denial. What do I mean? Well, all of these things are wins. Trump is delivering on all the kinds of, and he's getting Supreme Court wins and all of this. But Democrats, they just continue to say, no, depends on what you classify as a win. Here's a prime example. This was on CNN. Take a look.
Here are some things that have happened. Gas prices down. Economic indicators are decent. Brand new jobs report shows that's much better than expected. And border crossings are down. And now Trump's mega spending bill looks like it's going to be passed by Republicans. How do you Democrats fight back with the wins that Trump can tout?
Well, it depends on how you define wins, Sarah.
It depends how you've defined wins. She just labeled a bunch of wins, a bunch of great indicators in the United States of America. And you can't just acknowledge that. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, remember, she used to be the head of the Democrat National Committee. She's not anymore. But anyway, brave enough to go on CNN, take the question. But clearly, how do you define wins? Well, I think declining prices is a good start. That was one. Steve Hilton, who's been on this show and will be on it again. He's running for governor in California. He is a Republican. And he also seems to understand that Democrats just can't, they refuse to see that anything good is happening in America. Let's roll this tape.
Well, they've got nothing else. And that's what's really interesting about the Democratic Party now. They are all over the place. They have no idea how to confront this very, very different kind of Republican Party because it's not ideological. So the same old arguments just don't work. President Trump is not like the Republicans that they faced before. And in the face of common sense and these pragmatic positions that 80% plus of Americans support, what are they going to say? So they come across as hysterical, ridiculous. You can't believe a word they say because it's so over the top. And they've got no positive alternative. And so I just think they're becoming increasingly irrelevant.
Well, that's an interesting point. Are they becoming increasingly irrelevant? I think mainstream, middle-of-the-road Democrats are. I think they're a dying breed. They are becoming irrelevant. And that is why you see the Democrats who are getting all the attention, the AOCs, the Mamdanis in New York, the Gavin Newsoms are the ones that are screaming oppression, screaming about, still saying Trump is Hitler, screaming about socialism and communism and oligarchy. Those are the people getting attention. Those are the ones seeking relevance. And sadly, they're getting it. I don't know how electable they're going to be, but it does sound like AOC is going to knock Chuck Schumer out of his New York senatorial seat, unless someone really good steps in and does that. But it sounds like she's going to run. Brandon Gill. Now he's a congressman from Texas, and he is so much fun to watch in action. He's a Republican. His father-in-law is Dinesh D'Souza, whom you'll see a little bit later in this podcast. But he also talks about sort of what is happening out there with the Democrat Party in the wake of all this positive good news. As she said, gas prices down, egg prices down. There's really no inflation. They thought tariffs would cause all this unbelievable inflation, and we haven't seen it. And we have Leah Thomas having her records struck from the not Boston College, the Penn swim team. Thank goodness. That's a story for another moment. But listen to Brandon Gill. If you've seen this guy in hearings, what makes him so effective is he's just calm. He doesn't raise his voice a lot like I tend to do. So I should try to do more of Brandon Gill type stuff. But let's take a look at this piece of tape from Brandon Gill. Roll it, Misty.
We live in an age of authenticity. The American people want to know that the person that they're voting for is the way that they actually portray themselves. That's one of the reasons that President Trump is so popular with the American people, because they know what you see is what you get. And that is not true of the Democrat Party.
I think he makes a very good point, rounding out this whole story of the Democrat Party right now. So I think Mamdani is authentically himself. Now, he eats rice with his hands sometimes to look like he's something he's not, to look like he grew up in a third world. Look, he's a Nepo baby. He's the son of very rich people. And this is where the inauthentic part of him comes, right? Where he tries to eat food with his hands to make him look like he grew up in a third world country. He was born in Uganda, but then he was booted out because Indians were booted out. I'm talking about people from India. Both of his parents are from India. But then he goes, and when he applies to get into Columbia, he lists himself as both Asian and African American. No, you're not Tiger Woods, dude. Tiger Woods is both Asian and African American. You are Indian. Yeah, you are. And from what I understand, Indian people who moved to the United States of America are among the wealthiest in the country. So now you're trying to say socialism good. You got here, you got to grow up and thrive in a capitalist economy, but now you want to appear like you're from the third world, that you're African when you're not, and that public grocery stores will be good. What's weird about this is the traction that he's gaining in New York City in this mayoral race. He may very well be the next mayor of New York City, which you will see a mass exodus of people from New York City. Okay, now let's move to the West Coast and this other development nationally, which is, you're seeing it kind of pronounced in Los Angeles right now, and that is these ICE arrests. So people are suggesting quite often that all kinds of innocent people are getting swept up in these ICE arrests. Statistically, that's just not true. We have drunk drivers, murderers, rapists, other sexual offenders, pedophiles, domestic abusers. And they're here not legally. So if they get arrested and they are, quote unquote, separated from their families, well, we're also taking risks off the streets of America. Heaven forbid we want to live in a safe society. Well, out in LA, Mayor Karen Bass has said this is un-American, undemocratic, that it's, they're comparing ICE agents to Nazis and the KGB. And therefore, we now have people trying to shoot ICE agents. There were 2 attempts in the last couple of days at these ICE detainer facilities or ICE facilities. I think they both happen in Texas. These are law enforcement officers, but Karen Bass has said they are not welcome in Los Angeles. I don't know that she's going to have much of a say. because I don't know if her political capital is really that strong after the fires. But one of the key officers overseeing this stuff out in LA responded to Karen Bass, and here's what he said.
The federal government is not leaving LA. I don't work for Karen Bass. The federal government doesn't work for Karen Bass. We're going to be here till that mission's accomplished, as I said, and better get used to us now, because this is going to be normal very soon.
Now, it's unfortunate, but when you have a sanctuary city like Los Angeles and a sanctuary state like California, or we can say Boston, we can say Minnesota, these sanctuary cities and states, that prevents ICE officers from going, very often prevents ICE officers from going into prisons and saying, we know that this guy who is in prison for breaking the law is here illegally. We're going to take custody. They won't let them do that. So now you're just forcing all of these other issues because you will not cooperate. So I'm not in love with the optics of, I think there were some Jeeps and military vehicles driving through LA. But if you're doing it with the purpose, because the city won't help you out, and this is the way that you've got to complete your mission. And for as many people who are pissed off about this, there are a lot of people that are pissed off that they're only taking criminals, that they're not just taking all people here illegally. Now, we can debate this till the cows come home. But what's practical right now is to find people who are here illegally and give them that option. And oh, by the way, the federal government did give them an option. There's a way they can say, hey, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go back to my country of origin. I'm going to collect $1,000 when I get there. And then I'm going to reapply to be in the country legally. You can do that. Apparently, a lot of people have done that. But in LA, Karen Bass, playing to her base, very, very liberal base, doesn't want any part of it. Okay. I would recommend to Karen Bass that she try sleep cream, because maybe that'd help her sleep at night and she'd be a little less cranky. I love this stuff. I swear by this stuff. I took it with me on a recent trip to New York, and I'm so glad I did. Okay, so what is sleep cream? Look, I remember when someone brought this to my attention, I said, you can't just put CBD cream on your arms and fall asleep. It turns out, yes, you can. And I use the stuff. And now they've got a beautiful rose-scented one as well. Lavender happens to be my favorite. But look, this stuff is all natural. It has this pure CBD element to it. It's scented, so there's this aromatherapy sort of element to it. I put it on the insides of my forearms, sometimes the bottoms of my feet when I go to bed. And the next thing I know, my body is relaxing in a way that without it, I can't necessarily relax. This stuff works. And if you try it and you're skeptical like I am, but you try it and it doesn't work great for you, then return it within 30 days and they'll give you your money back, guaranteed. So here's the deal. Go to sleepcreme.com, sleep, CREME.com. Order it up. Use the code HOMERUN at checkout in honor of baseball season, and you'll get free standard shipping on your first order. Again, the code is HOMERUN. Sleepcreme.com, sleep, CREME.com. If you want a better night's sleep, it's a lot more accessible than you think. Sleepcreme.com. Remember, the code is HOMERUN. All right, now we have to get on to some kind of ugly, sad business. I'm not gonna seep you in it, but these floods down in Houston have been heartbreaking. And there are still, as I'm recording this, over 150 people missing who have not yet been found. It's devastating. And this Camp Mystic, this young girls' Christian camp, that was hit so hard. It's gut-wrenching. If you're a parent, you know, you can't imagine the nightmare all these parents are living, that their child, some as young as 7 years old, were simply swept away by a flood. Now, here's what's gotten sick about this whole thing. This is a storm that caused this flood, Mother Nature, and we can talk about all the things we can learn from this. Could there have been better warning signs? Could there have been better warning signals? We can talk about that. Throughout the history, we have dealt with these things. Where I'm from, California, it was earthquakes. You get no warning about an earthquake, none. They're still trying to work on that, but it happens. Everyone just wants to blame people in a tragedy. Everyone just wants to blame. And so that part has been happening, and we're going to get to the politics of that in a second, as much as I hate to, but I have to call out hypocrisy. That's the key thing for me. When you're a hypocrite, I got to call you out. But first, there is a woman in Houston, Texas, and she decided to focus on this Camp Mystic. Again, it's a Christian camp for girls where so many tragically were killed, little girls. And rather than praying for their parents who are never going to be the same, this woman who used to work for the mayor of Houston, so this is key, these are key little details about this. She used to work for the mayor of Houston. She no longer does. But she decided it was a good idea to go on social media and post this.
I know I'm probably going to get canceled for this, but Camp Mystic is a whites-only girls' Christian camp. They don't even have a token Asian. They don't have a token black person. It is a all-white, white-only, conservative Christian camp. If you ain't white, you ain't right, you ain't getting in, you ain't going. Period.
Okay. And she seemed to follow that up with, they deserve it. She also went on to say if there had been black kids or Hispanic kids, none of us would be paying attention to this. It's despicable. It's absolutely a sickness. I mean, it's sick. Like, when this all started, I did not think once about what these kids looked like, because it simply doesn't matter. Now, just how abhorrent were these comments? Let me tell you something. Her boyfriend is a reverend. This woman who put that out there. Her boyfriend is a reverend. And he had to disavow her comments. There may be a breakup in their future if he's wise. But the reverend boyfriend, I'm reading out of the New York Post, the reverend boyfriend of the former Houston mayoral appointee who went on a tirade against Camp Mystic, where 27 campers and counselors were killed in the Texas flooding, has criticized his partner's controversial comments. Colin Bosson, a senior minister at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, apologized to his congregation for his girlfriend Sade Perkins's remarks while acknowledging that he never endorsed them in the first place. He gave that statement, which was obtained by the Daily Mail first. Here's what he said. My partner, and I don't know if it's Sade or Sade, kind of like the singer, because there's an accent over the E, Perkins, has made comments on social media regarding the horrific flooding that devastated Camp Mystic. I want to be clear that I disavow her comments. His church, where he works, also had to put out a statement disavowing her comments. I mean, where are we? Where are we? Why would someone who's been involved in public service, anyone, you know what? I don't care who you are. You got to be sick in the head to make a post like that. And quite honestly, I don't know how she'll ever live it down, and I really don't care. Because it is just that vile. Okay, now on to hypocrisy. And this is important to point out, because a lot of people still think the media are trustworthy. They still think CNN is right down the middle. All right. So what I'm going to show you now are 3 different anchors. And if you recall, when Biden was in office, they would treat the storms a certain way. And we'll show you the side-by-sides of back then and now, because it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you are on, how you identify politically. What matters is hypocrisy. And I can't stand hypocrisy. So let's start with CNN's Abby Phillips. And I think in the first video, she's talking about the North Carolina storms, which happened during the election. And in the second one, she talks about the flooding we've just seen in Texas. Roll it, Misty.
Why does Donald Trump continue to insist on politicizing a storm? The only person making an accusation that people are not getting what they've asked for is Trump. The only person who is politicizing this is Donald Trump. He's the one guy doing it. The doge of it all was essentially all the things that the federal government is spending money on for the most part is waste and fraud. But clearly, there are some things where spending money saves lives. And it may not save lives in the moment that you spend it, but at some point, somebody's life, somebody's child could have been saved.
Okay. That's called politicizing a tragedy. So whereas in the flooding in North Carolina, she said the only person politicizing it was Trump, now she's politicizing it. And she's not alone. And understand what she's implying here. She's implying that any federal cuts by the government could be responsible for these deaths of these little girls. Katie Tur, T-U-R, is at MSNBC. She's done something similar. Roll it, Misty.
Adding to all of that chaos, all of that concern is politics and the rampant disinformation that's being peddled by Donald Trump and some Republicans, politicizing a natural disaster, what FEMA is warning about. There's been so much doubt sown into it that people no longer trust, the NBC Newses, the MSNBCs, et cetera, of the world. Instead, they trust a person that they see on their social media feed. There are also questions about cuts to critical systems like the National Weather Service, which handles forecasting. Did those cuts hurt the response time or the ability of officials to coordinate? I wonder if this is going to make the administration rethink the cuts and whether they want to bulk up now and find better ways to map out and predict these storms as they're changing. I mean, they do happen. They are bigger, but we can find a way to start trying to track them and predict them if the money is given to these agencies for research to try to figure this out to get ahead of it. The administration announced more cuts or proposed more cuts to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, NOAA, just last week. An estimated direct program budget of $3.5 billion for NOAA. That's a $2.3 billion cut, lower than the current year, almost a 40% reduction. It would eliminate all the funding for the agency's Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, the division that coordinates and conducts weather and climate research across the nation, the people that would try to predict this stuff better. Defunding the program is going to carry great costs, according to this research. Forecast improvements have saved as much as $5 billion per storm. All right, Ryan and Julie, thank you guys very much on this story.
I didn't hear much from Ryan and Julie there. I heard a lot from Katie Tur. So let's remember that the Trump administration is 6 months in, and proposed cuts have nothing to do with what just happened. So yeah, we do lose faith in MSNBC and people who have an agenda with their news. One more, CNN again. This time, Caitlin Clark, you can see on the screen and you can hear very clearly the change in tone from 2024 to now. Roll it.
Donald Trump landed in storm-ravaged Georgia today and almost immediately began lying about the federal government's response to Hurricane Helene.
They've given over $1 billion to illegal migrants that came in, and now they have no money.
That is not true. FEMA says no disaster funds were used to shelter migrants. Well, and it's just something, though, that is being repeated time and time again. I mean, a lot of people are listening to Trump in the state of Georgia when he goes there, in other states where he's saying they're not helping at all in North Carolina. And sure, people are frustrated at times when they're dealing with a response in a moment like this, when their house has been completely wiped off, their town potentially, TW. But to see other Republicans, promoting this and amplifying this. Two National Weather Service offices most involved with forecasting and issuing flood warnings in the region did release a slew of watches and warnings in the lead up to those flash floods. But those offices are also missing some key staff members. According to the NWS website, several leadership roles and meteorologist positions in those offices are vacant. And according to Reuters, the meteorologist once in charge of coordinating warnings with local officials at the San Antonio National Weather Service office, Paul Ura, accepted an early retirement offer from the Trump administration earlier this year. That has led to the top Democrat in the Senate calling for an investigation tonight into federal staffing cuts and shortages at the National Weather Service, which has been hard hit by personnel cuts under the Trump administration. Though there are questions, and it may not have significantly affected the forecast and the warnings for this historic and deadly flooding.
You can see it. You can taste it. You can hear it. It's so clear. By the way, she denied that FEMA did not give away disaster funds. She specified disaster funds, but FEMA did spend a ton of money on illegal immigrants. Mayorkas said it. We all knew it. We saw it. And money is fungible. Money is fungible. So what does that mean? You know what that means. If you can take it from one place, but you can fill it in from another. So to just say, oh, no disaster funds were taken. What else is FEMA for? Federal Emergency Management Agency. Anyway, it's the hypocrisy, folks, that gets my goat, so to speak. That's where the media loses trust. If you treat situations the same, you might get us back, but this was not a good start. All right. Speaking of trust and not a good start and inauthenticity and all these themes that we're having right now, showing you a clip from a protest. I just saw this clip for the first time today, and it's kind of devastating. You can see the words and you can hear what this woman is shouting at police officers in New York City. And she's wearing the keffiyeh, and she's clearly a pro-Palestinian protester. And now it's been suggested that she is a Zoran Mamdani intern. Let's just roll this tape. Take a look.
Leave the badges of the pigs! Leave the badges of the pigs! To the Rahmans and the Mohammeds! To the Rahmans and the Mohammeds! To the Alis and the Abdullahs! To the Alis and the Abdullahs! To the Rafids! To the Rafids! To the Rafids! To the Rafids! To the pigs! To the pigs! Who can call themselves by the name of Islam? Who can call themselves by the name of Islam? To the Mohammeds! To the Mohammeds! Put some respect on that name! 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 La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Shahid Habib Allah!
If you're just listening to the podcast and you didn't see, there was one police officer in particular that she was shouting at. He clearly had an Islamic name, and they focused in on his badge, and he couldn't make eye contact with her. She was trying to shame him because he had a Muslim name and he's a cop, and she's shaming him. And at the very end, another police officer steps in and says, I'll stand here in your place. You shouldn't be taking this abuse. And some of these protesters laughed. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And for all the people that say the Muslim religion is so peaceful, some of it, yes. But to watch this stuff, it's painful and it's scary and it's despicable and it's vile. That one really got me. And if you're just listening to us, you may want to go back and watch us again on YouTube and see it for yourself. Protesters come in all shapes and sizes here in the United States of America and around the world. This guy, well, let's just let him speak for himself. Let's roll it, Misty.
Hello, it's the Master. The reason I have red lipstick on is because I'm at the demonstration in Traverse City. There are thousands of us. And red lipstick, I was informed last night by my friend Jen, was a form of resistance when Hitler was trying to take over the world. He didn't like women wearing red lipstick. So I've decided red lipstick. Everybody put on red lipstick to show resistance against you know who. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, over and out.
Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, put on red lipstick, and, let's resist Trump, who's meanwhile bringing peace to the Middle East and doing his damnness to bringing peace to the Congo, to India, to anywhere that he can. But, oh gosh, he scares you. You're afraid of him for some reason you cannot identify or actually apply evidence to. Because you know what? You're out there protesting and wearing your red lipstick, and you're totally free to do so. So how are you living under authoritarianism or Nazism or fascism or communism or socialism if you're totally free to do your, no kings and red lipstick stuff? That's a good one. That's just fun to watch. All right. Another Trump win, and really Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education, got UPenn to say that they will no longer allow biological males to compete against women. And Leah Thomas, this was pretty much ground zero, even though this wasn't the first incident, and it won't be the last, of a biological male stealing opportunities and awards and podium places from women. Leah Thomas was the tipping point for this movement. And it produced Riley Gaines and Paula Scanlon, and people like Jennifer Say and I have been outspoken about this. But there was another woman named Vicky Hartzler, and she was running for public office, and she did an ad about Leah Thomas before people were really tuned into this whole thing. And I'm going to show you the ad, and then we'll point out that because of it, she got suspended from what was then Twitter and is now X. Roll the tape.
Meet William Thomas, ranked number 462 in men's swimming. Meet Leah Thomas, ranked number 1 in women's swimming. Only one problem. It's the same person. Some people are afraid to talk about it. Not me. I'm Vicky Hartzler. I ran and coached girls track, and I won't look away while woke liberals destroy women's sports. Women's sports are for women, not men pretending to be women.
I gotta say, every time that I revisit this issue, every time that I see something like that is just so, the fact that we had to shout from the rooftops that men are not women. It's like living in an alternative universe is what it is. Anyway, it's Vicky Hartzler. I think I might have said Hertzler, but Hartzler. She was suspended for that, for hate speech, for declaring facts and truth. This is the stuff that we must fight about. This is where resistance must come in. When people take away our freedom of speech. By the way, it's going on in Europe in a way that should really trouble all of us. But there she is. Now, in another social media posts, and some of these are gold. Here is a gay Latino man from the South Bronx who also seems to understand that a lot of people told him he should be very afraid of the current president of the United States, very afraid. His life he would be in great danger, but he has learned, and he posted this.
You might not like the truth, but I'll never tell a lie. You know what I find funny is that I should be the poster boy for DEI and victimhood. A gay Latino man from the South Bronx. I should be first in line, heading their parade, screaming about oppression. But let's be real. Since 2016, I've been told that if Donald Trump was elected president, I would be put in a cage. I would get all my rights taken away. It would set us back 200 years. I was told that I should be afraid, ashamed, and silent. I would be on the losing side if I voted Republican. And that voting Republican meant voting against myself. Now here we are in 2025. I have every single right that a white man has. Yeah, I'm not in a cage. I haven't been set back 200 years. A gay Latino man from the South Bronx has every single right that a white man has. Not one more, not one less. The exact same rights. I can hear liberal heads exploding right now. You know what I don't have? Yeah, I don't have paranoia. I don't have victimhood. And I don't have a mental breakdown whenever somebody disagrees with me. Because the only thing that I left when I left the left was the fear-mongering they were selling me. And my support for President Trump is stronger than ever. Yeah, I'm not trying to be edgy about it. I just see past all the bullshit now. I lived through the Democratic fear tactics, and guess what? Absolutely none of it came true. They told me to be afraid, but instead I chose to think for myself. And now, common sense is back in the chat. Have a beautiful day.
What's not to love? What's not to love? I mean, he just tells it. He left the left because they were just fear-mongering. And that is true. And here he is, all this time later, thriving in life, which everyone can do if they choose to. We're not all going to turn out the same. It's not all going to be equal in the end. Read some Stoicism. Read some of the Stoics. And you know who needs to read some of the Stoics? Becky Pringle. She is the president of the NEA, the National Education Association, and she continues to deliver great video for us here at the Michele Tafoya podcast and everyone else who loves to do this. Becky Pringle is a drama queen, and this is the head of the National Education Association, a teachers union. And I'll show her as often as I can so that you understand what education is up against in America. Roll it.
NEA, remember who you are and hold your head high. You are brave. You are powerful. You are the NEA. Hold your head high. Hold your head high. NEA. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Hold your head high.
I'm not really sure what the point is of that diatribe, of that rant, of that gospel she was preaching. Hold your head high. Okay, fair enough. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Hold your head high. You are strong. You are... I just wonder how many teachers, public school teachers in America, like at the K through 12 level, really understand where their dues goes. I would love to know. There's so much good stuff. There's so much good. Okay, Douglas Murray is a guy from England. I'm sure seen him on a lot of different shows. He appears with Piers Morgan. He's often on Fox. He's on CNN. He does a number of things. He's a brilliant guy. I'm going to say it because I'm reading his book right now. He happens to be gay, The Madness of Crowds is the book I'm reading of his. But he is not afraid to call out anyone or anything, including what's going on in London right now, which is apparently every Saturday, the demonstrations by the Muslim population, which has ballooned in London in particular. Let's roll this tape. Listen closely.
That's one of the things, Julia, that I take away from this. This is why I say I don't recognize our country anymore. I really don't. I don't know why we have given in to Islamists and terrorists. I don't know why we've done it. Why is it that Saturday after Saturday, people parade through the streets of London, calling for jihad, praising Hamas, praising terrorists, and clambering over and defiling our sacred war monuments? Why do they get to do that every Saturday, but I can't speak in a theatre on Shaftesbury Avenue to a packed theatre, mainly of Jews? Why is it that if you call for violence against Jews day after day on the streets of London, that's A-OK with the Metropolitan Police? But if Jews want to congregate in central London, apparently it's not okay, and we'll have to retreat to another venue. I'm not a victim here, and I'm not claiming any victimhood. I don't believe in that. I don't care. I'm not going to shut up. I'll continue speaking. This is my country. London is my city, and I expect to be able to do what I want in my city. But why is it that we have Hamas supporters and all these others who defile our monuments, defile our country, hate our countries, literally spit on our country week after week, but you're not allowed to show solidarity with the Jews or with Israel? It's a despicable situation, and it's come about because of a generational cowardice by politicians of all parties and by the Metropolitan Police and others. I think it's appalling, because I know one thing for sure, Julia. The people who hate the Israelis, the people who hate the Jews, the people who we're watching at the moment marching through central London, they hate Britain as much as they hate Israel. It's just that Britain is first. We're all going to be next. So I'd say stand up in whichever way you can. And if you're an usher in a theatre, well, do your darn job. It's what you're employed for. But the idea that we have to keep giving in, and that this society, of all societies, Julia, we used to be a resilient society in Britain. The country we were brought up in, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, were resilient people. We don't have to show that much resilience these days. We just need to show a bit of backbone. Where is it, Britain? Where have you gone?
I mean, that is one of the strongest statements I have seen on this issue. And he is right. It's cowardice. It's like the politicians don't want to upset anyone. Except when Douglas Murray was going to a theater to speak to Jews, because he spent a lot of time in Israel, particularly since October 7th, they shut him down. They had to move the venue, because all of these protesters thought, no, it's not right. But they get to go out on the streets every Saturday in London, central London, and climb on these monuments, World War II monuments. Let's not forget how essential Britain was in World War II in fighting Nazism, in ending Hitler. Thank you, Winston Churchill. Cancel her. Go ahead, cancel me. I don't care. What he said there is so strong. There is cowardice. There's no backbone. This is a city that Winston Churchill proudly led through that horror of getting bombed constantly. And they stood strong together in the face of it. But now, you saw those pictures. And if you didn't, again, I'd encourage you to go back and watch this one on YouTube or Rumble, where you can see this stuff. It's horrific. They're waving their Palestinian flags they're doing it in New York City. They're doing it in London. They're doing it in LA. Why? Why is that okay? Is it peaceful? Is it peaceful assembly? It's not always peaceful, folks, when they're desecrating statues, public property. When they're spitting on people, that's not peaceful. When they're hurting people, that's not peaceful. Where is the spine? And I hate to say it, because I know so many of you just don't like to think this thought, but that is one of the huge reasons that Donald Trump was elected in November. because he had spine. Because even when he got shot at, and you'll want to stay tuned Thursday for the podcast with Selena Zito, who was there in Butler and just released a book about it. Even when he got shot at, he stood up and said, fight, fight, fight. You got to have backbone. You got to have courage. And it has to accumulate. There's got to be a coalition of people, as Greg Gutfeld always says, willing to share the risk to combat some of this ugliness. I mean, absolute ugliness. There's nothing pretty about those protests. But he can't go speak to a theater full of Jews. Whew. Dinesh D'Souza had an interesting chat with someone recently at a speaking engagement. I don't know how old this tape is, but it's worth watching in the wake of that one. Roll it, Misty.
No, you came voluntarily. Did I ask you to come? No, don't shout at me. I'm defending fascism. No, I'm exposing you as a fascist. See, the problem is, sometimes you get speakers like me who are not scared of people like you. Ultimately, you are afraid of ideas. You're not willing to engage with me. Yes, you're afraid of ideas. You're not afraid of fascists. You think I pose a threat to you? I'm an immigrant. I came to America with nothing. What threat do I pose to you?
You promoted dangerous, violent ideas that kill millions of people.
I propose dangerous, violent ideas that kill people? Who have I killed?
And you look at capitalism.
Do you realize that Hitler's deadly opponent was capitalism? The fascist ideology is one that is distinctly on the left. And the idea that the fascists are right-wing because they support racial superiority? Wait a minute. The guy who showed the Ku Klux Klan movie in the White House was Woodrow Wilson, a progressive Democrat. So progressivism was married to racism at the hip. So don't pretend it was a right-wing phenomenon. It wasn't.
Boy, those two sound bites back to back are pretty powerful. Bravo to Dinesh D'Souza. Capitalism kills millions of people. Okay. Again, you have to understand who's brainwashing these people. And then you have to understand why it's happening. And here's the last serious one that we'll show you before a funny one. Why is it happening? Is it that they want people to hate Trump? Is it that they want these students to be pro-Marxist? What is it exactly? What is the goal? Well, this is a guy named Konstantin Kisin who tells the story of a man who left the Soviet Union and who understood the goal very clearly. And the goal is simply to sow discord and demoralize people. And you see Americans discordant and demoralized, and you start to put the pieces together that this is the goal. Not who you hate, but that you hate. Not how you express yourself, but that you're discordant and demoralized. Roll this tape.
There's a guy called Yuri Bezmenov. If you're not familiar with him, this guy's going to blow your mind. You should look him up. He was a Soviet defector in the 80s who came from the Soviet Union to India to Canada, ended up in America. He gave a series of lectures, which people can watch on YouTube, about what the Soviet intelligence services were actually focusing on. Because during the Cold War, you might not remember this, but people thought about Soviet spies as like stealing microfilms of American nuclear installations and all of this stuff. Actually, what he said was almost all of their resources were used on what he called demoralization. And demoralization is the process whereby you divide society and you activate nefarious forces within that society against the society. So you encourage forces that are destabilizing. This is one thing that people don't understand about Russian misinformation, disinformation, influence operations, etc. They're not designed to get a specific person elected. This is how British people and Americans think. They're like, well, I invest $10 million to get this outcome. It's not what they do. What they want is to create a cacophony of lies so that you don't know what to believe anymore. Is this true? Is that true? And so they are and were and have always been paying people in the West or using people in the West to sow discord.
Look it up. Look it up and ask yourself if that's not what's happening. Fortunately, there are a group of people who no longer care. And it's not a bad thing necessarily. Actually, it's pretty damn hilarious. I want to introduce you to this phenomenal woman who has started a club, and you're invited to join, and you can find her on social media. And trust me when I tell you, I'll be sharing a lot of her because I've fallen in love with her at first sight. We do not care. So we could all take a good lesson from this. Let's roll it, Misty.
Hello to all new and existing members of the We Do Not Care Club. I started this club for all women going through perimenopause and menopause. We are putting the world on notice that we simply just do not care much anymore. Let's go ahead and get started with today's announcements. We do not care if there are 19 cars behind us in the drive-thru. We are checking every bag to be sure that we got our barbecue sauce, our ketchup, and our straw. And do not ask us to pull up. We do not care to excel at work. We will be meeting expectations. We do not care if we put on a pair of leggings in the morning with a graphic t-shirt. We are dressed for the day. We are ready for bed and possibly dressed for tomorrow at the same time. We do not care if our clothes are tight. They fit when we bought them. We do not care if the AC is on 62 and we have on 4 blankets. Don't touch that thermostat. We do not care that we just went grocery shopping and we are ordering takeout instead of cooking. We are tired. We do not care that we are not wearing makeup. If you don't think my bare face is cute enough, don't look at it. We do not care how you want your eggs. If one person wants them scrambled, we are all eating scrambled eggs. We do not care if you leave a voicemail. We're not going to check it. This has concluded today's announcements. All new and existing members, please be sure to put in the comments what we do not care about today so that we can go ahead and add them to our list. Thank you.
Again, for those of you who are only listening and not watching, that one's worth going back and looking at her 2 pairs of glasses, her attitude, her list. We love her. We always end by saying, be brave and do good. I think we saw a lot of bravery throughout this episode, and that woman is doing good. Again, Thursday, like tomorrow, Selena Zito, author of Butler, the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. She was there. I mean, when I say she was there, she was right there, right near Trump. You got to hear this interview. That's Thursday. And we'll see you next time. Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.